Welcome back to another episode of Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Don't Let It Connect. And honestly, I was supposed to record this episode last week, but I had a trip to New York, and it was with my family. So, ain't nothing get recorded, which is why the topic of today that I wanted to really dissect and go through has to deal with the question of how to apply the philosophy of chilling as you're dealing with family. So with this particular topic is definitely going to touch on a lot of different things, and honestly, we're just going to dive into it and see what comes out of it. So again, the question that I'm trying to answer is, how can one apply the philosophy of chilling when dealing with family? And I think the most important thing to understand in trying to realize how to deal with the different emotions that one can feel when interacting with their family is that, yes, your family is a foundation, but they're not the foundation, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of things come from how your family influences you and how you receive their actions to be. But one thing that I was trying to dissect and understand in terms of how to address and just deal with the different stressors that can come up with family is the fact that they're just an example. A lot of people commit themselves to what they've been brought up with, and that is admirable for sure. But in regards of how I understand family to be, it's not the principle of what you have to be. It's an example of what you can learn from or grow from. And at the end of the day, a lot of people have a hard time understanding that there's a person behind that title. Yes, that's your mom. Yes, that's your uncle. Yes, that's, your aunt, your granddad, what have you. But these are still people. They still had to experience their life, make mistakes, and along the way, you were created because of the choices that they made. And that influence has continued from your childhood to adulthood. And a lot of people, in terms of growth and development, a lot of our growth and development happens before we can even speak to a level where our family can recognize it or understand. So in regards of trying to dissect the different attributes of what one can experience with family, I think one of the main points that kept reflecting to me is the fact that it's an example of what not to be or what you want to carry in your life and continue to build your own legacy. So let's dive into it. First thing is, again, that foundation. When you're growing up, being raised, there are principles that are passed on to you, whether it be in terms of how you handle your mental health and emotions, how you handle finances, how you receive the personalities of other people that you can meet outside of your family. All of these things are connected based off the example that you were given as a child and grown, and as you matriculate into being grown and into your adulthood. And those experiences can definitely range in their impact level to you. Not speaking from my own experience, but I've seen other people who have kind of carried the weight of trying to embody the ideology or the concept that their parents have portrayed that they would like onto them. And as I kind of went through my mentality and the difference that I've seen with other people, it's a lot that can range from the in-between. So I'm gonna try to dive into it as best I can, and let's see. And if this means anything to you, then, you can apply it and then try to improve your own philosophy. So with that being said, foundation, mental health in general. A lot of people consider, how do I say this best? The words that your family speaks to you have more power than one may realize when it comes to how they think about themselves or how they operate within their family dynamics. And as y'all can see with the, decoration a little bit, within festivities and holidays, it can get kind of overwhelming because a lot of people, what they do is try to build their own cocoon of peace. And sometimes there are different elements within your own family that can kind of disrupt that. And there has to be a better way to address that. And when it comes to family, one of the main things I've seen, even for myself, it's kind of difficult to have a conversation surrounding a sensitive topic, especially if you know a specific family member that's stuck in their ways or not trying to open up their mindset to accept a different philosophy than what they were grown up with or what they had to deal with physically in their life experiences. And one thing I've understood is the fact that every experience, every aspect of personality within your family, you as an individual, you were either put in that family to be a representation of what they were not able to achieve or what they were not able to open their heart space or their mindsets to become or be, or you're there to see what elements led them to make the decisions in life that they did, because those same aspects and variations of situations will present themselves to you. And when they present themselves to you, yeah, all the elements may not be the same as what your other family member experienced, but there will be similarities that at the end of the day, you'll either make the same decision or you'll improve upon it and walk in it differently, if that makes sense. So when it comes to mentality, one of the things that I've held true for myself is the fact that there are certain things that I can take away and certain things that I have to leave behind when it comes to the words and conversations that my family has had with me or, with other people surrounding them. And one of the major things that helped me have a delineation or, separate certain experiences or emotions that I felt towards things that other family members have said or done, it's the fact that they're their own person, and so am I. Yes, this may be your suggestion of what you think I should do, but if I am being intentional with having my own sound mind and being able to have my own confidence in the decisions that I make, I can digest what you're saying and then disseminate my actions in different ways. not to be disrespectful, but to say, okay, I'm listening to you and I respect the words that you're trying to relay to me. But at the end of the day, I have to make my own decisions because you lived your life and are living your life. And I have to look at the reflection of the example that you have set or you have made and decide what's best for me to move forward to where I need to be. And that has opened a lot of windows for me because there are so many aspects of your family that can really get on your nerves. And at the end of the day, the reason why people go so hard for family and blood, and even if they're not your blood, if they've stuck around you during certain seasons of your life, certain low points, even if they've, been around during the high points and, celebrations, family really defines itself when you are at your lowest. Because at the end of the day, it's about who will pick up the phone, even if you dislike them, even if you have a disdain for them, who will pick up the phone and care for your well-being enough to make sure you are safe or out of the predicament that you are requesting. And that can be its own tricky element because by blood, it's preached and everything that at the end of the day, if something were to go wrong or something were to happen or if someone were to pass away, this is the bloodline that is meant to make sure the efforts that that person leaves behind are carried on. But even to the regards of someone that is not your blood, it's the experiences that you have that build that bond. And that's kind of what I want to focus on because in order to be able to deal with the frustrations and, the conversations where, it may get heated, but in order to move on past that aspect and really consider somebody family, it's about how they show up for you, even if you know what their words aren't necessarily consoling you, if that makes sense. So how do you deal with it? Like, how do you not necessarily let it go, but acknowledge it for what it is and move forward in your own? And honestly, it takes a lot of developmental phases and stages because there's not a one-way answer to it all. It's definitely an assess and go because it depends on the person for one, and it depends on what the trigger was that made you feel the way that you do. And to understand how to move through it can definitely be something that can fly out the window. Let's just be honest, because we're dealing with family, people that have seen you at your most personal and vulnerable stages, especially if we're talking about blood family, or even if they're not, if they've just been there since you've been born or been there since you've been young. They see the progression of the person that you become, and having people close to you in that way, sometimes it can become difficult to really set a boundary on what you want to exude and the standard that you have for yourself, and not just, relationships that you curate, but in the development of your own personality and everything else that they could or could not agree with. And one thing that I have known to be true is the fact that you gotta walk and do you. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to amount up to an image that your family has created for you, the key word is someone created it for you that was not you. And that's a problem. Like, I understand, dreams and expectations, but at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, what are my own dreams and expectations? And how do you want to achieve that? Because at the end of the day, your family, whether it be by blood or not, their job is to literally be a net for you as you walk through your own life. Period, point blank. They can like it, they can love it, it don't matter. It's about you. You were created and put into this family to show them, hey, look, this is how I'm taking what you passed down to me and transforming it into my own personality. And now watch as I do the things that I need to do for me. And I hope that you're there to help celebrate me as well too. So with that being said, let's talk about the different triggers and frustrations. Like, everybody know it, like, especially if you in school, when you get that report card and they be like, oh, how your grades looking, da-da-da-da. And then you done had a tough year, finals and everything, you just like, oh, bro, anything outside of this. Like, it's aspects like that where they can be small or they can be large to the point where it's like you just completely disapprove of what I've been doing and you make it vocal. But again, going back to how you apply the philosophy of chilling, at least what I have done, I'm all ears. What do you have to say? Like, even if you don't say it to me personally, how do I find out about the information? Because that also matters. How information is circulated within a family, there can be so many misconstrusions, so many opinions that by the time it gets to you, you're like, well, this ain't even what it was. This is just what y'all made it seem like in regards of what I do. But even when you're talking about people outside of your family, how is that information presented to you? Is it presented in a conversation where there's understanding? Is it presented in a conversation where it's just my way or the highway? And each situation has to apply a different action, if that makes sense, to not necessarily as a form of retaliation, but more so reaction in a form of where you are in the stage of your life, if that makes sense. Like, okay, let me do an example, because I might be losing somebody. Let's say, well, everyone deals with this, fuck it. We'll do it personal. Let's say your family doesn't like your significant other, right? What do? How do you apply a way to digest your frustrations, but also carry yourself in the embodiment of what you've been striving for? Well, one, you have to be able to receive the information without an immediate reaction. And that's difficult because it's your family. And when you deal with somebody and people that are as close to you as that reaction, it just comes because all your walls are down. Like, when you're outside in public around strangers, you got a wall up. Like, you got a smile on your face, you know what I'm saying? Now, if someone piss you off, they piss you off, and then your anger flip. But when it's family, your wall is already down because y'all done seen me at my lowest. Y'all done seen me, in my nude. You did what I'm saying? Like, depending on who you're talking to, they done seen you in a more personal state than any stranger in the street. So you already have a wall down in regards of how you're receiving their information and then how you respond to it as well. So when it comes to how that information is conveyed to you, how are you able to listen to it? I know for me, there's one particular person in my family, they talk to me, it's up. I don't care what they say. They hit a certain tone, they hit a certain action, maneuver, it's up, it's out of here. And my family knows, like, you know what, let me keep this person away from this other person, because if they do the wrong thing, then we don't know what's gonna happen. And that's fair, because you have to learn that, but also you have to recognize what stage you're at. Because for me, I'm not finna start nothing that we not gonna finish, because I like to finish what I start. So I try to keep myself at a distance until I am ready mentally and emotionally to deal with a conversation. Now, one thing about family is time gonna always tell, because they gotta be there regardless. Something is gonna happen in the transition of life to where you have to confront something. It matters more about where you are to have that conversation and where that person is, most importantly. Because you can't have a conversation with somebody that's not hearing you, for one, and actively listening, for two. And if you're around family that are not doing either of the options, then there has to be a point in time where you don't look for their opinion. You don't look for how they can contribute to your life, because you have to put yourself in alignment with the people that are going to help you get further and further develop you as well. And again, that can be people that are blood or people that are not. There are going to be certain pockets in time where your gut is going to tell you. And they're going to be like, yo, auntie cool, but auntie can't keep going with us. Like, auntie we're going to have to see her only on Thanksgiving, on the holidays, chop it up, surface level, and call it a day. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay if that's where it's at. But one thing I've realized is there's always going to be a transition point. Somebody gonna get old and life gonna hit them, pow, smack in the face, and they gonna be like, oh, jump, what I did before wasn't really the best actions or the best things that I could have said or done. And now I'm trying to, repent from the religious folks, or just make a change and a difference for the people that recognize that as well. And that's okay. And when in terms of trying to answer the question, like how to apply the philosophy of chilling when dealing with family, it's more so about how you deal with the things that you just cannot control. If it agitates you, if it always flusters you and always sets you off, then you have to place boundaries and uphold that. But at a certain point in time, you have to come to terms with the fact that you can't control the perspectives or the preferences of somebody else, especially if they make it vocal. Because if you tie yourself up with, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, well, you finna get depressed. And that's just what it is. Because you sitting here comparing yourself to an image that you didn't even create. It was given to you. And if you're forcing to accept it, it's gonna come with some burdens too. And that's just the name of the game. So how do you get through all of these frustrations or deal with the uncomfortable growth that you experience when it comes to family? And it's about how another element that I wanted to go into was really how you break through the mold of child and adult. And that's a generational topic that I've perceived to be very constraining. Like, everyone was a child. Yes, that's how we grow, folks. Like, it is what it is. But there's a point in time where traditionally your family would just tune you out until you got around 18, 21, and then at that point, you on your own. Like, you an adult, you know, you do what you do. And everyone is just here now receiving information about your movements and everything else. But how do you break through that? It's about how you see yourself and how you articulate it and how you uphold it. Because, yeah, you can be a child all day, but every person knows a child is always contemplating, a child is always curating a pathway for themselves before they're even 18, before they're even 21. Because they're receiving all this information all at once. So it's like, okay, all this is coming in. Now, how do I make a path for myself that I can walk in? So when you're trying to break through that mold of being seen or being heard as a child into being heard as an adult, it's honestly about what type of trauma are you trying to break through? What do you literally have to talk through and digest for yourself? Okay, this is how I perceive the situations that we were going through. This is how it affected me. Now, mama, dad, auntie, grandma may have been doing the best that they could. Yes, that's true. Did it help you survive? Yeah, that's their responsibility. But at the end of the day, that responsibility doesn't hold weight or doesn't allow for someone to hold weight on you over how you move when you're making a path for yourself because of the resources that were provided to you. So it's like, you've taken care of me, yes. Thank you. It wasn't my decision to be here because I am a byproduct of the decisions you made, and I recognize that. But the fact that I am here, okay, now I have to figure out how to articulate to you what is okay and what is not okay. And that's the name of the game. Like, it's very difficult to do because you want to be respectful. You want to make sure your people are proud of you. And you want them to be able to recognize and boast about that proudness, whatever you do. And sometimes that doesn't come with every aspect of family that we're introduced to. And it can be hurtful. It can definitely be hurtful. But the main form that helps you get through is just being proud of you. Like, you have to be proud of yourself in whatever you do. You have to own up to, if you are going through something, you have to hold yourself accountable with the actions and the consequences that come with the decisions that you make. But ultimately, regardless, you have to be able to take in the information, delineate what is for you and can help you, and what is not really a byproduct of your own experience, but of somebody else's. And if that can't help you because you're in your own new experience, like, yeah, we have cliches for a reason because there are different elements of things that happen progressively or they pop up, not ritualistically, but they pop up similarly. There we go. They pop up similarly within your own life. But the term, man, I wish we had that when I was a kid. That term, that's a round of applause. Like, that's an accomplishment. Because no, the fact that it's not the same as when I was a kid means that whatever generation you came with or what have you did what they needed to do. Progress is the name of the game. We're not supposed to stay the same. What? Like, how are we going to grow as humans? Like, that's basically what we're here to do. Grow and do what we have been guided to do by whatever power you recognize on this earth. That's it. So you can say all day, like, you did this or so and so didn't respect what have you. It don't matter. Are you making the best decisions for you and taking the time, once the time is right, to have a discussion about what you will and will not allow in your own life? So, to get through family and to apply a mentality or a philosophy that can help you calm yourself down when people are not understanding you, is to be confident in the understanding you have of yourself. Like, family is going to say things and do things all day long because at the end of the day, they have become their own person. So outside of the title, what can you see within the people? If you can't see a level of respect outside of you just being a part of my family, that's the problem. You have to be able to separate yourself from the blood attachment or the experience attachment and see the person for who they are. Yeah, that's your mom. Yeah, okay, you ride for your mom, you die for your mom. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to talk to your mom too. And if you can't do that, then that's a big part of how you are able to get through everything that you experience, whether it be as a child or matriculating into your adulthood. It's not easy because once those family members get to a certain age or, a certain level, they can become deaf-toned and it can get frustrating. But you still have to be able to hold your own because, yeah, they brought you up, but they only did so because that was their responsibility. Once that responsibility is transferred to yourself, now it's time for you to stand up and articulate. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're already having all of your walls down. Like, you can't hide nothing from family. First of all, family gonna talk. And then family has been there. So you can try to make your own, persona, but family is the one aspect of you that they either going to deny what happened to you or they're going to stay in their own elements and understanding with or without having seen where you're coming from. And those are difficult things to juggle because your family is your own. There are aspects of their personalities embedded into you, and you are a reflection of them as well. It's not always just your immediate family, but there can be aspects of your personality that can be shared with a cousin or what have you. All of that is combined into the experience that you have when dealing with supportive and non-supportive family. Even if you have supportive family, that's great and lovely. But again, they're on their own trajectory. So if they're on their own trajectory, you have to be confident in what you are doing to introduce to them, this is what I'm adding. even if they have their own perspective. Because you can have supportive family and be like, yo, anything you do, I'm behind you. But there can be opinions that they have and good intentions that could be aimed in trying to define you because of how you receive it and how you hold the respect that you have for them to it. And that's good. You're supposed to have respect for your family in the ways that you articulate yourself and how you move and respond. But at the end of the day, is that respect coming from the fact that I have to, or the fact that I recognize that respect in you? And that's the biggest thing. If you recognize respect genuinely from the people around you and your family, shoot, you good. It don't matter what they say, it don't matter what they do. You can figure it out as you learn yourself as an adult to articulate it to this other aspect in person that you have found camaraderie in or mutual respect to. Now, if you just respect them because of the title that they have in relation to you, that's a whole nother beast, because again, your walls are already down. So whenever you're triggered or they trigger you, who do you respond like? And does that make you happy? That's how you get through family. Like, for real. Because I've been there. And the three things that I really just want to highlight is the fact that you can't understand who you have around you in your family and who can be there for you if you don't understand the confidence that you have in who you are as a person. Because regardless, family is going to tell you. They're going to tell you. They're going to tell you what you need to do, how you need to do it, when it needs to get done, outside of your own perspectives and things that you have for yourself or the responsibilities that you have externally. So you need to be able to not necessarily do everything that they say or tell you to do, but you need to be able to articulate and understand how the methods of what you're receiving can apply to you. You need to do this, you need to do that. Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. Let me look at it for myself. Let me research it for myself. I understand the experience that you're translating over to me, but how does it apply to me and where I'm trying to be now and in the future? And what can I take away from it that can actually benefit me with where I'm trying to go or grow to? And that can be a toss-up. And especially if what is being told to you is hurtful, it's like, okay, well, shoot, how do I get past this if so-and-so is saying this and, you know, they raised me, or, you know, they're one of the ones closest to me, like, they family, like, yeah, they family, but, like, it's not set in stone. It's just an example. Somebody can feel how they want to feel all day long. That's great. That's fine for you. But in trying to understand what you need to apply for yourself, it may take a whole nother avenue from versus what they told you. And they gonna have stuff to say every step of the way. But if you're confident in the actions that you're moving in or progressing to, and the vision for yourself that you're trying to work towards and grow to, then you have a better chance of dealing with it more appropriately to match where you're trying to be versus responding with the same generational responses that are probably embedded within the family. And that's okay to recognize it, but you have to do so in order to know what's for you. And that's the biggest key. And when I thought about this topic of applying the philosophy of chilling through family, there are so many like archetypes and like specific subjects that I could go into, but it's really down to those one or two principles. Like, one, how do I hear you? When you talk to me, how does that information relate back to me? Like, what do I feel when you try to add something to not just my life, but maybe to my personality? How do your comments make me feel when you convey them to me? Once you understand how you digest those words and actions, two, is this in alignment with where I'm trying to grow to? Are you just conveying to me your experiences and the learned lessons that you've had and are trying to warn me? Okay, that's cool. But how does that apply to me in actuality? If I am trying to grow beyond the circumstances that you had, the way that I address the problem I'm dealing with now, it may sound similar to you, but how I move through it may be different from what you chose to do. And that's okay. But you have to be confident in three, you. You have to be proud of you internally, externally, before you look for any validation or confirmation from your family. Yes, they're the ones that are supposed to support you, but sometimes they don't. So are you willing to stand alone and still be like, look, I respect you, I love you, but I'm still going to walk and do this regardless of the perspective that you have on it. And that's okay. Like, it happens every single day. Honestly, it just takes different forms. You just have to be willing to recognize what action you are willing to take that best suits you. And the fourth thing I wanted to go through was really just how to dissect the aspect of responsibility. Because every family comes with responsibility. Like it takes a different form of reality when people grow older and life happens in different totalities to everybody. But how do you deal with that type of responsibility? Because if you shy away from it and then just exclude the family in general, that comes with its own detriments in different ways. Like, you can be like, hey, look, child, auntie, I can't do it. I'm gonna have to keep my distance, you feel me? But at the end of the day, you keeping your distance, is that taking you away from your little cousins that you were supposed to be an example to show them that there's a different mentality, there's a different methodology that they can use to get through what they're experiencing that maybe you went through too? How are you dealing with that responsibility? Because yeah, you may not mess with one person, but the thing about family, there's a fluid example of connectivity, which is still relevant in meeting other people outside of your family. But when you're dealing with the people that are closest to you, that connectivity affects you in a different way. And if you have the responsibility of, let's say, middle child, youngest child, oldest child, it doesn't matter. How you move in regards of one person sets the example of how somebody may move with another or the same. And even if you're making the best decisions that are for you, are you willing to explain that to the younger generation of the people under you? Like, hey y'all, I'm not gonna be able to come to the family event this year, but let me talk to you individually because I want to explain why. Have you tried? I mean, the one thing that is the most difficult to have sometimes with family is a uncomfortable conversation because of their proximity to you. And it can be helpful, but it can also be detrimental. And it can go either way. And all I really want to sit here and say is that when you are thinking about your relationship with your family and the different ways that they can piss you off, trigger you, or support you, you have to understand who the person is and you know who the person is referring to you, like, you as a person, like who you are and how you receive and disseminate the reflections that you see. I mean, if you are willing to recognize it, then you can grow from it. But how you grow from it goes into how you not necessarily take away, but how you delineate the example that you've seen versus where you want to be. And that can be very, very tricky. And these are really questions that cause for more answers, but this is the foundation to get them. How you deal with certain situations. There might be a situation where you really can't do anything but just do you. Like you've tried everything, you've suggested, helpful tips and tricks, but there's only so much that you can do when there's somebody else living their life too. And that's the biggest key. Yeah, it might be your family, but these are people too, making decisions and moving in the ways that they felt were best for them in their situations and in their life experiences. And you have to accept that because yes, they had a responsibility, but now the responsibility is on you. Once you get to 18, it's not about, oh, okay, I did this, they did that. Yeah, they did because they had to. Like, they were supposed to. They didn't have to, but they were supposed to. And because they were supposed to, now how do you take what they did and what they put into you and make it your own? And once you step into making your own decisions, your own actions, be aware of what's surrounding you. Yeah, that's your uncle, that's your auntie, but like, what is the person doing? And how does that align with you? If there's a misalignment, you have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with it in a form of negative confrontation. But you do have to decide, okay, am I finna fall into the same patterns as the rest of my family, or am I going to look at the vision that I have for myself and then make a decision or a reaction that's in alignment with that? And that can be completely different from what your family has seen before ever. And that can be a good thing. That can be a great thing, actually. Because, again, we're not supposed to stay the same. Yeah, we're supposed to, well, not supposed to, but yes, we have similarities in the things that we experience. But no, we're not supposed to be raised with the same constraints and the same limitations or resources that another was brought up to or brought up in. It's supposed to change. You're supposed to say, yes, I'm glad that it's not the same way from when I was there. Because when I was there, we were fighting for these same exact improvements. And that's a good thing. Like, I don't want to be somewhere and then come back 10 years and it's the exact same. Like, what? What were y'all doing? Y'all were just sustaining and maintaining. There was no growth or evolution. And that's not what we're here for. You literally see us grow from 0 to however old we get. Because that's what we're supposed to do. To progress, not a stagnation. And that can be applied in family because it can be seen throughout generations. So how are you taking the example and evolving it to fit you? No one said you just had to disregard your family and then move without, you know what I'm saying? Because honestly, you can't. Like, there's gonna be certain times where even the government gonna be like, hey, your bloodline, like, what's up? And you gonna be like, I don't know what to tell you. And we all gonna be stuck. Like, you feel me? But to get through, whether it's the support system that your family has for you, the ways or emotions that you may feel unsupported, or even just the things that pop up that just don't align with you. In order to deal with all of that, like, you have to be confident in who you are and be genuinely going after the vision that you have for yourself. If none of that is true for you, then you have a whole wave of problems that can probably and definitely be routed back to your family. And that includes you. Like, yeah, for sure. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So, with that being said, I don't know if I have much more to say. I might do a part 2 with this. I think for me, I might be doing part 2s with, specific people that can correlate to these topics and have them join me and rehash this conversation and see what other information is brought out. But for right now, I feel like that's pretty much it on everything I had to say. Like, I know everyone is back for the holidays and enjoying and trying to prepare for a new year. So let's just assess how we operate within our family. Let's assess how you consider yourself to be, because your family move when you move. Like, if you move a certain way, your family gonna have to accommodate. And once you're comfortable in the fact that they have to accommodate to you, well, then let's see if these reactions are the same. Let's see if these generational tactics affect you, or these generational mentalities affect you in the same way. Because you can have somebody that don't want to change. That's fine. But where is the responsibility lying in you? And what are you doing with it? Because each individual person has their own growth to experience and go through, and you can't force it. No one can force it upon you, and you can't force it upon anybody else. And that's the real key, because you can love them all day long, whether they be blood or not. But at the end of the day, family defines itself based on who shows up for you and in what ways. So, I think that's pretty much all I got to say. I could keep going on. I can't lie. Like, it's a lot of things in specificity that I didn't really touch on, but I really felt like the overarching principles of 3 or 4 things that I touched on are really essential when trying to chill when you get all these combating personalities and comments getting thrown at you just within your family alone. And the growth is definitely difficult, but if you're really committed, it's something that you have to go through in order to really realize yourself, because your family could be a barrier to the aspect or version of you that you've been striving for. And I'll be damned if someone think they finna stop my growth. I don't care what you got to say. You feel me? Like, I'll take tidbits of improvements and information, but if it's not aligned with where I'm trying to go through, I hear you, but the actions may not be for me. And I gotta move regardless, because I refuse to be stagnant. So find the people that align with you within your family. Like, build that confidence within yourself so that when it comes time to have a conversation, you understand what you're articulating from your own experience. Because somebody else is going to see it another way regardless, because they had to go through something completely that you may be privy to or not. But at the end of the day, they're their own person too. You had to do what was best for you. Now I got to do what's best for me. And I appreciate you for making sure I survived to where I needed to be. But now I got to put the rest of the weight on me and do what I need to do. And if you're really my family, then you'll hear me, you'll see me, and we'll work together on how you can be there for me. So, like I said, I can sit here and talk on this couch all day long, but y'all got to go. So, this has been another episode of Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Don't Let the Connect, and I see y'all. Peace.